Performance comes down to controlling what you can. For tennis pro, Jessica Pegula, that means starting with the air around her. She can't control her opponent or the match, but she can control her rest and recovery. That's why she's trusted Blue Air for 5 years and counting. Blue Signature air purifiers are engineered to perform and designed to impress, with 7 stages of advanced filtration, up to 10 times more odor removal, and customizable colors and accessories. Shop blueair.com and use code SIGNATURE30 to save.
You know what I could really go for right now? Literally anything that comes in a McDonald's carton, wrapper, or bag. Or a McDonald's cup. Yes, any of those items should do it.
We've got your cravings covered. Now stop in for the flaky Filet-O-Fish, the crispy snack wrap, or large fries for just $2.99. Limited time only. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
He's an old head.
Youngins are really starting to get on my damn nerves.
He's a purveyor of nonsense. He's a Georgia High School coaching job influencer. His favorite Bible verse is, Jesus wept. He's the man of constant sorrow, Chris Lamb.
Yeah.
Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sports for the next 4 seasons on Sun Coaches podcast. Titan GPS delivers technological superiority and improved player performance through wearable GPS made for high school football and strength and conditioning. From speed training to athlete recruit to workload enhancement, Titan is the easy-to-use yet comprehensive GPS tool to get it done. There's no minimum to get started, and Titan will walk you through every step to success. Message us on X at Titan Sensor to learn more and get in touch. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 4, and today we've got a special guest with us. He's originally from Virginia, won a state championship there. He's coached in 3 different states, and he is notorious for taking really bad places and making them really great. Coach Kevin Saunders, thanks for being with us today.
Hey, great to be here. It's awesome to talk to you.
Well, Coach, where did you actually grow up?
I grew up in Radford, which is right outside Blacksburg, where Virginia Tech is. I grew up about 20 minutes in Radford, Virginia, and right outside Blacksburg. So I grew up a Hokie and a Virginia Tech guy, so that made it pretty easy.
Well, what high school did you go to?
Went to Radford High School.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and it was a small town. A lot like a lot of places in Georgia. It's not much different, and football was very important to Radford when I was there, and it's just now started to change a little bit, but it was the heyday, the won state championships, and, big time players came out of there, but it was a small school, and it was a great time and a great area to be, and that's what got me started into coaching.
Well, what all did you play in high school?
I played linebacker and defensive line and offensive line. Back in those days, you had to play 2 positions, especially at a school that wasn't. We had like 300 kids in the school, so, I played offensive guard and defensive tackle and some linebacker.
Well, after football, did you play other sports?
Yeah, I played baseball. Loved baseball. Probably baseball was my first love. I was a much better baseball player than I probably was football player, but I just liked running around and tearing things up in football, so that's why I got pretty good at that. And when I graduated, I had already had 2 knee operations and a shoulder operation by the time I graduated high school, and I just didn't feel like going through it again. So I worked my way through college by coaching there at the high school and started off at 8th grade and worked for a legend in Norm Lenenberg, and he'd won over almost 400 games. He won 350 some, I believe. And working for him got me to where I am today, I believe.
So after you worked with him, what was your first job after, your first real job after that?
My first real job, I became the youngest head football coach at Norfolk Catholic, as a Catholic school in Norfolk, Virginia at age 24. And spent 2 years there, and then joined Coach Beamer's staff as a graduate assistant. Coach Beamer grew up in that area where I grew up, and then he was an assistant coach there at Radford High School before I got to the high school. So everybody there knew who he was, and he gave me a chance to join his staff there, and I was a graduate assistant for him, and
But that was cool.
It was. I mean, Todd Grantham and me were graduate assistants at the same time, and got really close with Bud Foster, and Bud and myself are still really good friends. And met Shane. Shane was a little bitty thing growing up there at that time, and then Shane came down and recruited a couple kids here at Duluth for us, and they signed our big offensive tackle. And I got to talk to him a while. I hadn't seen his dad since a couple of funerals we'd been to with the same people we knew back in Radford in the New River Valley there where we grew up, and got to see him. So that was good. And those ties that you met with people back then, you don't realize how they carry over and keep going on in life.
I bet it's cool watching what the job he's done at South Carolina when you knew him when he was – I knew him when he was crap and yellow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have known. I would have never expected him to do that. I always expect him to be like a lawyer or something because he's pretty sharp. But he's done a great job there. And, it's good to see those things. And as a matter of fact, I talked to Bud about a week ago and talked to Todd Grantham about a week ago. It's awesome that you can still talk to these guys. And these guys haven't forgot where they came from. That's what's awesome about the guys I met back there, and I can call them anytime and they'll pick up the phone and talk. So that makes you feel good.
Well, old school guys,
Yes. Yeah. Shane's, surprisingly, he's got a lot of old school stuff in him, but that comes from his dad because his dad was that way. I mean, his dad is awesome, man.
Yeah. Most coaches' kids are just like that.
Yes, they're good. And, he's been good to me. So, and Coach Beamer's always been good to me. So it was good to have that tie with him.
Any good GA stories?
Not that you probably could say on air, but I will say this. We did get to play. I learned how to play liar's poker with Coach Beamer down in this restaurant one night. And we had a really good afternoon down there playing, and it was quite funny. And didn't know Coach Beamer was colorblind until then either. So it was some really funny stuff that came out. And some of the guys that you worked with there that, Tommy Groom would go, he would keep when he'd go recruiting, he'd take a tent and go camp at a park so he could keep his hotel money and stuff like that. And it was just, them older guys just did things different, and it was quite humorous. And so I learned a lot, and I learned a lot from the older guys. It was very, I don't know if the younger coaches do it as much now, but I used to just go around, even when I go to coaching clinics, would just sit around and listen to the old guys talk. I'd just be a fly on the wall and just listen to the stories and things they would tell.
Oh, I've always loved just the stories, just listening to. And I don't care if they're true or not.
No, they're entertaining. They're a lot better than some of the speakers that are saying stuff about X's and O's. I like just sitting in the bar and hearing these guys talk and about how way they did things and stuff that they did back in those days. And no way in the world you could do now, but it was just legendary.
And if you ever get an old guy hemmed up and you ask him an actual football question, their eyes light up because they're like, hey, they're actually asking me something. And they'll take all the time in the world to clinic you up.
Oh, no doubt. And I mean, I still talk to people, ask me to talk to them about wing T stuff, and I still do. But I mean, when we won state championship in Virginia and we played for 2, we were a spread team. So, learning football, I was telling a young guy one day, I said, y'all don't understand how easy, I don't mean easy, but how it is coaching now. Everybody runs spreads, so you're really getting ready just for one offense. But I remember one week you'd be playing a wishbone team. Next week you'd be playing a power eye team. Next week you'd be playing a spread team. The week after that, a wing T team. So you had all this stuff you had to change each week. So, the older guys that spent time doing that really knew how to coach and those kind of things.
So what was it like? I mean, everybody always says that when you get your first head coaching job, it's like drinking out of a fire hydrant. I mean, you were 24.
Yeah. And had no idea what to do. None.
Just hang on.
Just hang on. We won some games which shocked me, and we won them way because I got the kids in the right spot. Had nothing to do with coaching. It was just the fact that I could get them to play, and we were lucky to do that. I mean, I don't think I've ever been Mr. X's and O's. My thing was getting the kids in the right spot and getting them to play hard. Those are things that I look at when I see another team, that you learn how to coach. So the more I got in it, I was more worried about making sure that we could be successful by what we did and with the fundamentals and techniques. So that was the main thing I wanted to do when I was after that first year, and went back and worked where Coach Beamer was and stuff. That helped a lot. And then learning the things I learned there and taking them, I still run the same defense that I learned from Coach Beamer and Bud Foster to this day.
I love it. I mean, I've cliniced up there before, went with a group, and I love the 8-man front. And I don't care. I just love it. I use the same terminology. It's Bandit Mike Will Rover. That's what I'm calling them.
Yep.
That's just in nose tackle. And I call him strike, but whatever you're going to call the anchor or whatever you want to call the 6 technique, that's what I'm calling them. And we're going to base out of cover 3, and then we're going to change to whatever.
Coach Beamer would sit in there, and he would always get in there and say, "I don't care what you do, you better have the guy in the middle of the field." And he would sit there. He'd ever say, "I don't care if you line up 8 guys up there on the line of scrimmage, you better have one in the middle of the field."
So where'd you go? Where'd you go after that?
After that, I took a job in Campbell County. I went to William Campbell High School, the smallest AA school in the state. And we went there and ended up going to state semifinals 2 out of 3 years I was there. I probably should have stayed there, but my ex-wife wanted bigger and better things. I loved it there. It was a small school. We were good. We were always going to be good, and especially when they eventually dropped to single A, they started winning state championships. If I'd have stayed, I could have stayed there forever if I'd wanted to, because they weren't winning before I got there. They won some, but not like what we were doing. And we were a wing T team back then. And if we would eventually run spread and done really well out of it. And they had athletes all over the place, just wasn't many of them. We went to a game, and I told the offense on the field and turnover on downs. All right, defense, you're out there. And one guy came off, one guy went off. So I told him I stopped doing that. And then I used to, halfway through the thing, we'd warm up, and like all the offensive guys go down, and there's like only 6 guys come down with the defense. I said, we just warm up as a group now. We only had like 32 kids on the team. Yeah. But it was awesome. I still talk to a bunch of those guys. Those kids grew up tough. I mean, they were all tobacco farmers, kids that worked there, and we couldn't even practice until 5:00 in the evening, because all the kids were pulling tobacco all day long. Either they worked it or their parents worked it, and they couldn't come practice in the mornings.
They came to football practice to get a break.
Yes, and the other thing is, that was one thing, that was back then, that was my first job that I'm like, I am not going to run these kids. There's no sense in doing a lot of conditioning, because what they do all day is plenty. So, and they come right out of the fields and would be there. So, and we were good that way. And that's when I started. I didn't believe in doing a lot of running and a lot of stretching. Just never have believed in it.
Well, they're athletes.
Yeah, and and even the fathletes, as a big kids. And a big kid told me one day, said, "Coach, why do I have to bend over and touch my toes? I'm never going to do it. Don't want to do it."
Performance comes down to controlling what you can. For tennis pro Jessica Pegula, that means starting with the air around her. She can't control her opponent or the match, but she can control her rest and recovery. That's why she's trusted Blue Air for 5 years and counting. Blue Signature air purifiers are engineered to perform and designed to impress, with 7 stages of advanced filtration, up to 10 times more odor removal, and customizable colors and accessories. Shop BlueAir.com and use code SIGNATURE30 to save.
I said, you got a point. He did. The big old kid said that. And I said, you got a point. He said, it makes no sense to me. So
fair.
yeah, great. And, and then he had same kid said, why am I running 40 yards? Coach, I'll block this guy all over the field. But for me to sprint 40 yards, I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to get a lot out of it. And he made me think, I guess that was before the days of all this specified conditioning and stuff. He was way ahead of the game. He was just a big kid that said, that ain't me, Coach. He said, I'll play hard. I'll play in a 10-yard box is what we ended up calling it. And he said, I'll do anything you want in that box. But he said, that's sprinting. That just didn't for me. And he was right. So
it's awesome.
It was. And everybody's like, yeah, all the scientific studies and stuff about the kind of conditioning and stuff you can do. I said, no, just listen to the kids. They'll tell you what you need to know.
So you parlayed all of that success into where did you go after that?
After that, I went up to Northern Virginia and did a good job there and took over a team that was terrible. And then went to Southwest Virginia, deep in the coal mines, coal fields down there, and took over J.J. Kelly. It was 4-36 before I got there. And first year, we stopped the state's longest winning streak and won more games that first year than they had the previous 5 combined. We beat Powell Valley, who had won 6 state championships in a row. They were in our region. And that's where Thomas and Julius Jones played. And Julius had just graduated and went to Notre Dame. And Phil Robbins, who's the coach there, was a legend there in Virginia. His son just got named offense coordinator at Tulsa with Coach Lamb. And we beat them, stopped the state's longest winning streak right there. And that was incredible because we got picked to get beat 88-0 in the paper. And blocked the punt and won the game there, and then started winning, got that program into the playoffs. And 6 years I was there, went to playoffs 5 out of 6 years. Did really well, and then left there, took a job in Tennessee for a year, 2 years, and did well, and then came back, still lived in the same area there, and took a job over in Kentucky right across the state line from right there in Wise, Virginia. It was right there in the tip, so you could get to 3 states pretty easy. And just drove over and went to Shelby Valley outside Pikeville and went to the playoffs and won their first playoff game in the first year and our second year, and I was there 3 years and did well. And then went to Gretna, won a state championship, played for 2 in Gretna, Virginia, and was realizing that, if I'm ever going to retire, I got grandkids coming and son was getting married. Virginia just didn't pay any money. It was just hard I just figured I was going to have to work till I'm 100 to be able to get through that. So that's when I came down here to Georgia and took a job at Cross Keys. Nobody can prepare you for that job.
No,
there's no way. I mean, I'm sitting there one day at practice talking to kids, and somebody jumped the fence and stole all our footballs. I mean, it was just things that you just couldn't believe. We had stopped practice one day. They found a body on the other side of the fence. The cops were around, helicopters flying over, and it was just coming from Virginia and stuff. It was just different, going to that job. But we had 20-some kids, had 2 kids sign a scholarship, one with Campbell and one with Presbyterian. And we played a non-region schedule and won 6 games, which they had never done. I didn't really understand it, and it's DeKalb, so, I mean, it is what it is, So left there, and I'll tell you a funny story. The basketball coach is Kingston Clark. He was the head basketball coach at Lowndes when they were really good. And me and him were sitting in the office one day, and we were talking about applying for jobs. And he goes, the football job Pebblebrook's open. And I said, yeah. And he said, yeah, you got to think about applying for it. I said, Coach, I'm not sure they'd hire a white guy over there. And he said, well, I don't know. You need to give it a shot. And I said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. If I apply for the football job there at Pebblebrook, I want you to apply for the basketball job at Woodstock up in Canton, Cherokee County. He goes, they're not going to hire a black guy up there to coach basketball. Sure enough, we both got the jobs. I got the, and he got that job, and he did really well there, and he eventually retired. And he was one of the great. You talking about some stories? He can tell some stories, and he was a good man, and I enjoy meeting him. And then when I was there at Pebblebrook, we went to playoffs 3 out of the 4 years I was there, and then Coach Walker talked me into going up to Gilmer, and I enjoyed it. My wife didn't. She was from Marietta. She wasn't as fond of LJ as I was, and my stepson got to play up there and did really well. It was good for him. So that's when I decided, it's time to just maybe find something else to do. So I decided to be an assistant for a while. COVID kind of did me, and I just wasn't the greatest thing of learning about how to take temperature and fill out paperwork and stuff that, I'd done a lot of stuff as a football coach, lining fields and with lime and evaporated milk and burning it with kerosene and all sorts of stuff, a ton of different things. But that COVID just kind of threw me for a loop and burned me out, I just said, I can't, I'm done. So I just wanted to be an assistant. So I took an assistant job at Paul Carroll at Howard, and then came back to Gwinnett. And I enjoyed being in Gwinnett, but, now it's time, I think, for me to be a head coach again. I'm a much better coach now than I was probably 20 years ago, probably a much better coach now than I was 10 years ago, by taking that time off being an assistant. I like Gwinnett County. It's nice. I've enjoyed it. It's been good to me.
So what at Pebblebrook, how did you enjoy
I
your
loved
time?
it there. I loved it there. It was, I had state player of the year and 7A defensive player of the year 2 years in a row, and Trey Pinckney, who went to Hutchinson and became a All-American out at Hutchinson Community College, and then he played at Coastal Carolina, and he's finishing up at Southern Miss as a linebacker. And he's done well. It enabled me to be able to relate to the kids there was the main thing. You could get them to play hard. If they respected you and stuff, they'd play out of their minds for you. And we didn't have, there's a lot of things that went. People don't understand when you coach at Pebblebrook, there's more to it than coaching football. And you're having to deal with a lot of stuff. Most of these kids are single families. Most of the kids that played football, the economics were poor. They had to work. They had to do what they had to survive. We went from 50-some kids my first year to 100 the next year, and we had 100 every year after that. Over 100. It was south end of the county. Cobb's a great place to work. I enjoyed being there at Pebblebrook. The people there were great. The kids were very open to me coaching. Got to coach them hard, and the kids played hard and got after it. And it's a lot like the basketball coach there. George Washington does a great job with the basketball players, and he coaches them hard, and those kids respond. And that was the main thing, was being able to get the kids to respond and getting them to graduate. And going to Pebblebrook, their way out was by athletics, football or basketball. So to get them out, we wanted to give them every opportunity to succeed, and we had a good situation set up there.
Well, I know you've done 1,000 podcasts, and you've been asked this question 1,000,000 times, but when you go into these places that haven't had success, what's some of the first things that you're like, this absolutely has to be done to change the program? After you've done your research, after you've investigated whatever else, once you get in the building, what are you like, all right, I got to fix this first? Or is it different for each place?
Well, each place has a different set of problems, but I always believe problems are just solutions. That's one thing. And I enjoy the opportunity to have those problems and find solutions. The first thing in any of these schools you got to do is you got to get them all in the weight room. I truly believe you got to get them all in the weight room. I think the weight room builds more championships than any scheme, any practice, anything. And it's not always about how much weight they lift or what they lift. It's about the camaraderie and building the chemistry around each other. And then through the weight room, you build your mental toughness. And I think that's one of the things that, kids like that at Pebblebrook are already, majority of them are mentally tough. So you just got to channel that into taking it onto the field and getting them to get their problems away for 3 hours a day. So you get them out there. And the other thing about the weight room, it builds the relationships amongst the players and amongst the coaches. I don't think you can build any type of football program with any success without relationships. And I think nowadays you see all the transferring from schools and in high schools. It's, the portal's in high school just as much as it is in college. And these kids just go to wherever they think they can win and stuff. Well, it doesn't always translate into winning because of the chemistry of the team and things. And I think that's one of the things that I love about being a high school coach is if you're a high school coach, you're supposed to be able to play the hand you're dealt. 1 year you might not have a high school, you might not have a quarterback. So you got to adjust your coaching to fit that. But nowadays, coaches, these younger guys just go out and go recruit them a quarterback from another school, which to me is just crazy. It's almost unthought of in my mind. And I just always believed you had to play with what you got. And the greatest thing about coaching is you learn if you can coach by adjusting your team to fit your personnel on your team.
It's turned into travel ball.
Yeah,
which is fine, but if that's what it's going, in my opinion, and if that's
well,
fine,
if that's what they want,
if that's what they want to do, then they need to put all of those people together.
Correct.
Let them. At least then everybody laughed at me when I said just use Form Bs. And if you have X number of Form Bs, do this to them, do that. And then the ones that don't, and for the entire athletic department, male and female, that way you kind of have to be judicious with it.
Correct.
Who you get in. And then if you don't, and that moves you up a classification. And if you have 10 or more or whatever, then we're going to put you in a super class. And we don't really care if you have 400 students or 3,000 students. If you're bringing in that many kids, well, then figure out how to put 11 out there that are really, really good. Y'all all just play in your own league. And then the rest of us can play with the hand we're dealt.
Yes, you coach what you got. And, that's when you find out if you can really coach or not.
And I'm not saying that those guys don't, no. They obviously coach them and they know what they're doing, but...
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1, go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2, collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3, play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games, all for free?
Step 4, unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
When you watch the state championship games and the broadcast team is point blank telling you so-and-so played here last year and this one played here last year and this one played
I agree.
Either they need to not say that or we got to do something different.
I agree, and you get over there and you look at Twitter and the kid go, I'm announcing my senior year. I'm going to John Smith High School. I'm leaving where I am now.
Yeah. I love everybody at Blue High School, but now I'm going to Green High School.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, well,
tell us why you're
fine.
going in if you're leaving. Yeah.
I'm over here at Yellow High School, and I'm going to have the same 35 yahoos I had this year.
Yes.
And guess what? My quarterback graduated, and I've got a 5'5", 130-pound little rat cheese looking joker that I got.
Yes, and I got to put a quarterback, and then we're going to be in the spread slinging it all. Yes, and guys, we're going to be in the spread slinging it all over the place. You know.
Yeah, and our NIL package is a free set of Funyuns, a free bag of Funyuns, and an orange Powerade.
Ham sandwich. I used to tell me you get lucky, you can get a Kool-Aid sandwich. You know.
But no, I mean, it's just changed so much. I mean, it's just
it has,
and I don't begrudge. I mean, it's just the way it is. But I would rather it if that's what they're going to do, than to make it equitable.
Then do it.
Then if you're going to make it equitable, put all of those people in their own universe.
Correct.
And
and
don't like everybody's talking about competitive balance. You can't. I mean, I was talking to somebody this weekend, and they were like, "Well, our school, if they do competitive balance, we're screwed." Because the competitive balance model that they're putting forth in the GHSA, if your school won 4 state titles in a fall sport, but you suck at football, you're screwed.
Yeah.
They're not doing it by sport. That doesn't even make any sense. And if you do it by Form Bs, then you are making it balanced competitively. You are putting the same people together that are doing these same things. And the people like us that are yelling at the clouds and complaining, it's not complaining, it just is what it is.
Right.
If that's what they want to do, then put those people together. If you've got, start with enrollment, just like they always do. Let the private schools back in, whatever. And then say, all right, if you have X number of students, you're in this classification, blah, 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 blah. We're going to do a 2-year cycle. That's fine. All right. Now, if you have no Form Bs at all, you just stay put. If you have 4 less in every 2-year cycle, that's 8 in a 2-year cycle. All athletic program, male and female, 8. You go up 1 classification.
That sounds like a plan, but the problem is you're using common sense, and the people making these decisions, I don't think.
If you have 5 to 9, you go up 2 classes. If you have 10 or more, you go to a super class where all of y'all go play together, and that's fine. Now you're competing against people that are doing the same thing, and nobody can say, man, they're recruiting. Well, yeah, so are they, and that's who you're playing against. They're doing the same thing you are. So go ahead. Go get all you want.
I'm with you.
But it makes too much sense, and it's too easy. And the penalty is because ADs and principals and coaches have to sign off on it. If they try to cheat the system, death penalty. You forfeit everything. All 3 of them are fired, and we'll try again next year with new leadership.
Exactly.
Real simple. And there's one appeal. There's just one appeal. If you appeal, here's the appeal. Yeah, that kid can, you can go over the number, or that kid can come in. The appeal is he has to play JV. Well, he's a 12th grader. I don't care. He can play JV.
We're not stopping anybody from playing.
Ain't no rule that says he can't play JV, but if he sets foot in a varsity game for a snap, then you just broke the rule, death penalty. Well, that kid will say, well, no, I ain't going to play JV. Well, then he'll stay where he's been.
Correct.
Now, all you got to do is, the rules haven't changed. As a freshman, they're all eligible. They can go wherever they want to as a 9th grader.
Correct.
So I suggest you go on and recruit them in as middle school kids. We got all these middle school all-star games anyway.
No kidding.
So
we got so many all-star games, it's not even funny.
So go on and get them in as 9th graders and develop them. But
yes,
anyway.
People don't want to develop them now. It's like the college and the portal and stuff. Let somebody else do your work for you, and you just get them to come there and play.
Well, how much difference is football? I mean, it's football, but how much different is it in Georgia, in your opinion, than it was in Virginia? I mean, are there more teams, or is it?
No, it's about the same teams. You got your elite schools there in Virginia, like Oscar Smith and a few in Highland Springs that could play with, pretty much the teams here in Georgia. I'm not saying they could beat them, but they could play with your Miltons and stuff just because they are on, they got kids that come from all over that play at their places and at Oscar Smith and stuff. But the top to bottom is nowhere. The bottom is terrible there. The bottom here, you can go to a school here that's maybe 1-9 or whatever, but they got a kid that's going to sign with Duke or Clemson or something. In Virginia, if you're in the bottom, you got those kids can't play at all.
Right.
It's just, and the coaching top to bottom is 100 times better here in Georgia, but also you got better facilities here in Georgia. You pay your coaches better. There's more emphasis on athletics, not just football, but in general, most schools in Virginia, it's just you go to school, you play an extracurricular activity, and if you do good, great. If you don't, great. Here, people want to succeed on and off the field, and, girls basketball. It just depends. It's more about the school and how good they are at a certain school than it is overall like it is here in Georgia. I mean, splosh money does not exist there in Virginia, so facilities at some places are just terrible, just awful. And it is what it is. There's no state pay scale for teachers. It's just a locality pays it. So that also makes it rough. So you better coaches go to different places. So it's a lot different, but the top schools in Virginia would compete with the top schools here, but just not as many of them.
I got you. I'm bouncing all around. I won't get back to.
No, that's fine.
I won't get back to. Got off on a tangent about the fixing stuff.
That's no problem.
So the weight room, you said number one, fix the weight room.
Yes.
All right. So what's your next thing you got to do?
You got to find out if the administration is willing to do what it needs to do to be successful. And when you interview with them, you need to ask them. And I think it's something, they should always ask in an interview. If I'm a coach, what's your view? Ask the administration, what is your view of a successful football program? And you need to interview them as much as they are interviewing you. You need to know if that's what they want. And deep down, is it? Or on Wednesdays, we got mandatory study hall for kids that are failing, at the high school. So they can't come to practice till they're done with study hall. You get some of the things like that. Or you want to practice in the mornings, and the administration says, no, you can't do that. Things like that you got to know before you take a job. But if they're willing to do it, then I think the administration and weight room, if you get those two things, you got a good chance of turning a program around.
And then it's off to hiring coaches.
And I'm one of these guys that I find it, I've been doing it a really long time. So I haven't been around too many coaches that are good coaches that aren't good teachers.
Correct.
And I don't think, and I've had teachers that are good teachers that have turned out to be good coaches just because they learned and they wanted to do right by the kids. I've had a couple of coaches that were really good coaches for me in my career that were basketball coaches or baseball coaches, but they knew how to coach and they could build the relationships with those kids and get them to play hard, and they could teach them the fundamentals and stuff. I don't need them to think they're Belichick or a coach like that. I just need them to come out there and work hard and get the kids to play hard. And I think that's the other thing is coach needs to find a staff and find out what they're successful at. And you always want to find success at practice. Celebrate the little things. We took a snap today and didn't drop on the ground. We're making progress. Little things like that. They just need to do. And I think, building a program, you got to have those.
Well, just having good people around the kids. I mean, you got to love on the kids. I mean, just
correct.
It's about the kids. I mean,
it's always about the kids. And that's what I've been trying to tell coaches all the time. It's not about me. It's about the kids. I haven't won a game. I haven't lost a game in I don't know how many years. I haven't had to make a tackle, hadn't had to make a block, hadn't had to throw a pass. It's about the kids. And then we need, as kids, as adults, you got to put them in chances to be successful. And I think if you do those things, then you're building a good program. Now, I've had a team that went 5-5, and it's probably one of the best coaching jobs I've ever done in my life. And it was one of the best teams I'd ever been around. And I had a team that went 13-1, and I couldn't stand them. They were the worst kids I've been around. They weren't no fun to be around at practice. They just, they complained about everything, and that's just what it is, and that's part of
kids being kids.
Yes, and I think there's a lot of coaches that have been doing this a while will tell you the same thing, that they've had some teams that were really successful on the field, but you just didn't like being around them.
Yeah, you tell some young coaches, you're like, man, I've been on 1 and 9 staffs before, and we had a ball, and they look at you like you've lost your mind. You're like, well, I mean, you don't like losing, but
no,
sometimes you can't help it. I mean, sometimes the kids just they get beat. They're outmatched. They're outmanned.
Well,
they're outgunned, but they're working hard.
Kidding.
And they're trying hard.
I had a kid. Yes, I had a coach get up one time and at the coaching clinic, and he was talking about, he was in Virginia, he was talking about at Giles High School. He'd won 4 or 5 state championships running single wing, never played football. But his dad was the football coach there before, and he went to college, played tennis and basketball, was just a great athlete. But he took over as football coach after his dad, and all he did was have his dad's playbook, and that's all he knew. But he got out there and talked to people, and those kids were tough. Man, they were tough. But he got out there one time and drew this, he said, I'm going to tell you all about coaching. He drew this big old circle, and he got on the other side of it and drew this little square with an X through it. He said, if I'm that circle and you're that square, I'm kicking your ass. And then he drew this big old square with an X through it and a little bitty circle. And he goes, now, if you're that X and I'm that circle, you're kicking my ass. He goes, all these guys are going to get up here at this coaching clinic and tell you all about all these great plays and stuff. He says, it has nothing to do with plays. It's all about players. You can be the greatest coach in the world and have the worst players and do an incredible job, or you can be a terrible coach with great players and still can't win. He said it's all about the players.
So when you coaches these days, you've been doing it a long, long time. What's some things you've noticed that changed?
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you want to get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Changed about the younger ones we have coming in these days. That I mean,
they always got to wear a backpack. They got to have a backpack on. And they got to wear a backpack. I haven't understood that yet.
There's a lot of good ones, but there are some that are kind of I'm a little worried about. The backpack guys, I'm a little worried about.
I agree. And then there's coaches that don't believe in I think paying your dues.
I want to know what's in the backpacks.
They act like it's gold or something, and so they got all the answers in that backpack. The other thing is, how many of them ever lined the field? How many of them ever mowed the grass? A lot of them act like if you ask them to wash the uniforms, they look at you like you lost you got 2 heads or something. They think just coaching is showing up to coach and diagramming plays and that. Not all the younger coaches, but a lot of them do. I remember my first job was 8th grade football. You had to teach them how to get in the stance and how to step and how to tie their shoe, how to put their equipment on. I mean, thank goodness they got rid of the girdles that you had to run the belt through and all that stuff.
Oh, God.
That took you had to be a doctor to get the stuff through in there just to get it. And then you had to weave it through your pants. I sit there and laugh watching these little 8th grade kids try to do that stuff, and they couldn't do it, putting their shoulder pads on, how to wear a helmet. These kids just think it's just natural that you just, everybody knows how to do those things. But teaching the kids about football. I mean, I told a kid, I had a coach that didn't know you could put eight players on the line of scrimmage. He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. He told me that was an illegal formation. I said, no, dude, I could put all 11 on the line of scrimmage if I wanted to.
Yeah, but it's not snapping it to nobody.
It's just not snapping it to anybody. Probably going to get to delay a game. but they said, yeah, I said, and all the rules state is you know.
There's going to be some ineligible people out there, but
yes,
I can put as many as I want to up there.
Yes, on the line of scrimmage. And
I can put 12 up there if I can get away with it.
Yes, they looked at me like I'd lost my mind. You know, and then a lot of younger coaches, I don't think, respect the game of football as much as we did growing up with the different offenses and how, you know, different coaches did different things, did it different ways, and you would respect the fact of how they did it. And, you know, that team, they never win. They're always 2-8 or whatever, but dude, you go over and you're going to get physically beat to death because those kids are just going to wail on you. They don't realize those things. You know, they don't know what an 8mm film looks like. You don't know what a VCR looks like. You don't know how to dub a DVD from a VCR, you know, from VHS. And you know, it's a lot of things that have changed. It's made the game a whole lot easier.
Oh, huddle has made coaching defense laughable.
Oh, I agree.
I mean, I've told people, I'm like, look, man, used to when you had to draw the stuff up in your big 3-ring binders and then go back through, and you had to pick out the tendencies, and then you had to mark them, and then you had to do all that. I was like, you wouldn't have everything done until Wednesday.
No kidding.
You know, you wouldn't have a good handle on what was going on until about Wednesday of game week. Because it took that long, and that was if you worked on it all day during class.
You're correct. You roll the balls out there. Y'all leave me alone. I'm sitting here trying to do this. But that's what I still do. I still draw the stuff by hand. That's just the only way I know how to do it. And then your little hit charts, and then you know your percentages, and all that. And you know, it's
Coach with huddle now, because I'm autistic, I told somebody the other day, I said, the way you can do defense on huddle now, if you have a brain, you should be able to recognize a pattern.
Yes.
And the huddle will do it. And you should be right about 98.6% of the time. You should have a fairly decent idea of what the offense is going to do by formation, down, and distance. And, you know, you have all these people, well, when they're in trips, I need to know which side the back is on.
Back, which side the back's on, in high school, and all this stuff.
In high school, he's in trips, dude. I mean, yeah, they might do something different when they put the back here, but I mean, let's be honest, they're in trips. You know,
somebody told me, he said, we got to get our personnel grouping right. And I said, yeah, but let me tell you this. On defense, we're going to put our 11 best out there, okay? Well, what if they add another lineman out there? We need to add another lineman. I'm like, so we're going to take one of our best 11 off the field and put another kid on the field that's not as good as the one we just took off.
Yeah, no.
Explain that to me, how that makes sense. And they look at me like,
well, because that's what they do in college, kids.
Yes. And I tell them that all the time. And they said, they get all these schemes from college and stuff. And I said, that works really good. I said, you know, is this kid that's having to make this read, is he LD? Is he special ed? Is he, I mean, you got to work with that. You know, not all these kids are smart enough at Georgia Tech that can, you know, are rocket scientists that can do all these things. We got to be able to adapt to our personnel, to what we do and our scheme. So we got to keep it simple for them. Well, we need to change the blocking rule on this play this week and then change it to next week. And I said, guys, we're not going to block anybody because they're going to be so confused they don't know what to do. And, you know, it takes them a while. And then I had a coach tell me, so, well, we got to be unpredictable. And I asked him, I said, well, how do you become unpredictable? And he sat there and he said, well, you got to do things just different. And I said, there's only one way to become unpredictable. First off, you got to be predictable before you can become unpredictable. And they looked at me like I'm, you know, speaking Japanese to a goldfish or something. They just, it amazes me that they don't think like that. And, you know, I said, football's an easy game, guys.
It ain't hard.
It ain't hard. I said, let's quit here trying to make this thing like it's rocket science. or, you know, we're trying to cure cancer or something. That's just football.
And these little kids, you got to get
and
them.
It's played by kids.
Yeah, and you don't know, like you said, you don't know. Your coach sends you down there, and you got 15 minutes a group, and you might have the valedictorian in your group, but you also might have a kid that's in, you know, small group classes all day.
Yes.
And you got to use the same words in 10 minutes to get both of them to do the same thing.
That to me is the difference in like college and high school. And I told somebody, I said, you need to look at the kids, how many kids we got with IEPs that we need to work with. And if we do, we got to figure out how to get through to them. It's just like being in the classroom with them. You got to learn how to get through to them, what helps them be successful. And you know, you can't coach them. I tell them all the time, differentiation in football is true. You got to be able to get through to them all on different levels to get this one result. I mean, you can't, you know, I used to always use numbers with kids, and, you know, we'd run 21 buck sweep or whatever. Well, we just got to the point now we would just call buck right and buck left. And this is what you did. And the kids just, boom, they got it. And then I had a group that, you know, you just say 21 and boom, they got it. You know, that's part of what you got to get used to as a coach. That's part of the coaching thing. I don't think younger coaches understand is how to do things different than what you know.
Do what they can do.
Yes, you got to make them successful. And everybody's like, well, you got to run a spread. Well, do you really? I mean, what if you got a kid that can't throw it? Well, we got to teach him to throw it. Well, what if we got kids that can't catch? What if we got offensive linemen that can't block? Can you do something different? Well,
I love going to the clinics when a high school coach starts talking about, well, we got an apex number 2 because the force player, and I'm sitting there going, if I use any of those words with my kids, they're going to think apex is the newest X-Man character on TV.
No doubt.
And he's going to look at me like, I don't know what any of them words mean.
No kidding. Mine is you got to drop number 3 into the hole, which hole or whatever, and always talking about you got to get your third linebacker to drop into this area and all that. And I'm like, dude, how many linebackers in high school can drop anywhere? I'm going to teach them how to, but, you know, I like to blitz a lot. So we're going to cover a running back, maybe, and a tight end. I'm not worried about all the other stuff.
Coach, the first time I finally learned how to teach cover 2 in high school was when it was in 2004, probably. Madden it hadn't been out long.
Yeah.
And I was watching the kids play. And they were trying to get me to play, and I was younger, and I was like, no, I'm not good at video games. I'll just watch. And I started watching, and I looked at my corner, and I said, son, you remember when we said we were trying to play cover 2 earlier today? Because we were in camp.
Yeah.
Back when you could have camp.
Yes.
And I said, you see that purple zone? Yeah, coach. That's what you have in cover 2. Oh, okay. Coach, I started calling it purple zone.
Well, that's what you found a way to relate to.
I'm like, you got purple zone, you got yellow, y'all got green. That's cover 2. And the kids were like, bet. Because that was on the game. I mean, that's what
but that's how they learned it. I mean, that's how
if I said, you got the flat, you got deep half, you got the hole, they'd have been like, I don't know what any of them places are.
No, but if you can find somehow for them to, that's part of being, you know, that's part of coaching to me is how you get through to them. It's not what you know, it's what they know.
Yeah, it tickles me how these days you have to literally go, all right, you read number 2. We're counting from the sideline. 1, 2. All right, you're reading number 1. If 1 goes vertical, you sit. If 2 goes vertical, you go. You do opposite. Well, that doesn't make sense, Coach.
Not at all.
I understand that. But that's what you're supposed to do. And then I'll just go, you know what? You got the purple zone. You got
That's it.
And then they go, got it. And it's just, how much the kids have changed. And they really haven't. People say they have. They just have better toys to play with than we did.
They have much better toys, and they have different ways to communicate.
That's it.
And I think that's what they need to understand. Saying all kids want discipline. All kids want to be praised. All kids want to be successful, and all kids want to be loved. So you just got to get that part through to them. And that's how you do it. We as adults have what's changed. We got to figure out how to make it successful for them.
Coach, you've made it successful for them for a long number of years, and I know you're going to get an opportunity to turn another one around here shortly. I can't wait.
I appreciate it.
Can't wait to watch you do it. I appreciate you coming on with us, and if there's anything in the world I can ever do for you, you just let me know.
Hey, I appreciate it, and I really appreciate you taking care of the coaches here in Georgia and what you do. It's fun, and that's the way it's supposed to be. If it's not fun, we don't need to be doing it anymore. But I appreciate you, too.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. You know what's slower than a pace car? Waiting at the car wash. That's when I fire up Chumba Casino. It turns those slow minutes into fast fun. With new games every week, you'll never get bored. Next time you're stuck in the slow lane, speed up with Chumba. Play now at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
If you work in university maintenance, Grainger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Grainger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, visit Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.